Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of chapter 1, that is making of constitution. I hope that before seeing this part 2 you have already gone through part 1. If not, please go through part 1 and then come back to part 2. So in part 1 we had seen objective resolution and how what were the points that were covered in the objective resolution. The points were very general points, but the language is quite complex in the book, so I tried to simplify it for you in the first part. Now we are going to start with changes by Independence Act. What is happening after Independence Act? What changes are happening? Now, this too is also a very big paragraph, but I have made it much shorter for you so that you only need to know what are the important point and just um, let go the initial extra explanation that is given in the book that you can already understand. Okay, so the representative of princely state who had stayed away from constituent assembly gradually joined on it. Now what was happening that earlier people were not sure that this is going to take place, that हमें सच में इंडिपेंडेंस मिल जाएगा या सच में ब्रिटिश हमको छोड़कर चले जाएंगे. The people were dicey about it. So that is why when they got the confirmation that yes, it is going to happen, so people who were away from the constituent assembly, they started coming in. So the representative of princely state now joined gradually were joining the constituent assembly. Okay, on April 1947, the representative of six states were part of Constituent Assembly. Okay, so representative of six states were part of Constituent Assembly on April 28, 1947. Okay, after the acceptance of Mountbatten after the acceptance of Mountbatten Plan on June 3, 1947, for a partition of country, the representative of most other princely states took their seats in the assembly. Okay, so when people got it confirmed that yes, we are going to get partitioned into two different nations, so the other members also who were till now not being the part, they came and then they became the part of Constituent Assembly. The member of Muslim League from Indian Dominion. So the member of Muslim League, they till now were not cooperating, they were boycotting. So the member of Muslim League from Indian Dominion. Indian Dominion means from Indian side. Indian side after part that was the nation which was going to be carved out of after partition, so that from the Indian side the member of Muslim League also entered the assembly. Okay, so partition के बाद जो इंडिया बनने वाला था उस एरिया के भी जो लोग थे मुस्लिम लीग के वो भी एंटर हो गए अब कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में. ओके, the Indian Independence Act made the following changes in the position of assembly. Okay, so we will see what are those changes. Okay, only three changes are there. We'll try to see them. The assembly was made fully sovereign body which could frame any constitution it pleased. Okay, so constitution was fully sovereign body. Fully sovereign मतलब एक completely independent body थी that could made in its own constitution. Okay, एक independent body थी जो खुद की एक constitution बना सकती थी. Okay, and this act empowered the assembly to abrogate or alter any law made by British Parliament in relation to India. और इस लॉ ने एक पावर दिया कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली को टू एब्रोगेट और अल्टर। एब्रोगेट मतलब टू कैंसल या फिर चेंज कर सकते थे। जो ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट ने इंडिया में जो लॉज बनाए थे वो कैंसिल भी कर सकते थे और उसको चेंज भी कर सकते थे। इतनी पावर कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली को मिल गई थी। मतलब इससे पहले हम लोग उन्हीं लॉ के ऊपर फंक्शन करते थे जो ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट हमें देता था। लेकिन अब हमारी खुद की एक ऐसी असेंबली बन गई थी जिस जिसकी जिसको ये पावर मिल गए थे कि वो ब्रिटिश के हर एक लॉ को कैंसिल भी कर सकता है और ऑल्टर भी कर सकता है। ओके। द असेंबली ऑल्सो बिकेम द लेजिस्लेटिव मतलब लॉ मेकिंग बॉडी। तो ये असेंबली लॉ मेकिंग बॉडी भी बन गई। इन अदर वर्ड टू सेपरेट फंक्शंस वर असाइंड टू द असेंबली, that is making constitution for free India and enacting ordinary laws for the country। ओके। तो एक असेंबली ये लेजिस्लेटिव बॉडी भी बन गई और इसके टू सेपरेट फंक्शंस थे, दैट इज मेकिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड enacting ordinary laws। ओके। सो now constituent assembly is having two power. First power is to four powers. First power is to frame constitution. Second power is to abrogate or alter any law made by British Parliament. थर्ड पावर इज अब ये एक लेजिस्लेटिव बॉडी भी बन गई थी। एंड फोर्थ फंक्शन वाज कि ये कंट्री के लिए लॉज भी ऑर्डिनरी लॉज भी इनेक्ट कर सकती थी। ओके। दीज टू टास्क वेर परफॉर्म्ड ऑन डिफरेंट डेज। सो अब इसके पास में दो टास्क थे, तो ये अलग अलग दिन उन लोग ने डिसाइड कर दिए थे कि इस दिन हमको लॉ मेकिंग करना है, इस दिन हमें ऑर्डिनरी लॉज बनाना है। Thus, the assembly became the first parliament of free India. So, as it was doing the law making, as it was undergoing the law making process, असेंबली एक लॉ मेकिंग प्रोसेस में इन्वॉल्व थी, इसलिए व्हाट वी कुड कॉल इट द फर्स्ट पार्लियामेंट ऑफ फ्री इंडिया। ओके। सो व्हेनेवर द असेंबली मेट एज कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट बॉडी, सो जब भी असेंबली एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट बॉडी की तरह मिलती थी, सो उसके प्रेसिडेंट होते थे डॉक्टर राजेंद्र प्रसाद। एंड व्हेनेवर द असेंबली यूज्ड टू मीट एज लेजिस्लेटिव बॉडी, तो उसके प्रेसिडेंट होते थे जीवी मालवनकर। सो दिस टू फंक्शंस continued till November 26, 1949, when the task of constitution was over. So very simple। second point, assembly legislative body भी बन गई, मतलब लॉ मेकिंग बॉडी। इसके अंदर उसके दो फंक्शन थे, मेकिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फॉर फ्री इंडिया और मेकिंग लॉज भी। ठीक है। सो whenever the so that is why it is called as mini parliament, because it was involved in the lawmaking process। So whenever the body met as constituent assembly, it was chaired by Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and when it met as legislative body, it was chaired by GB Malvankar। Okay। And third and the last point is the Muslim League member hailing from the areas included in Pakistan withdrew from the Constituent Assembly for India। So obviously जो लोग अब पाकिस्तानी एरिया को बिलोंग करते थे, they withdrew from the Constituent Assembly of India। So therefore the total strength of assembly came down from 299 against 389। Okay। So 389 से स्ट्रेंथ उसकी 299 होगी, बिकॉज जो मेंबर पाकिस्तानी एरिया को बिलोंग करते थे, दे विड्रू एंड देन दे वेंट टू they withdrew from the constituent assembly and probably they joined the constituent assembly over there। Okay। So originally, so the strength of Indian provinces formally was reduced from 296 to to 99. Okay, and then those princely state was reduced from 93 to 70. So I missed mentioning it here, guys. Just mention the strength of princely state reduced from 93 to 70. Okay, just mention after this. So the state-wise membership of assembly on December 31, 1947 is shown in the table. So you can refer to the table in the book. Okay. Then next. So okay. So what were the other functions performed in addition to making of constituent assembly and enacting ordinary laws? The other functions performed were it ratified India's membership of Commonwealth in May 1947. So it adopted what other functions Constituent Assembly adopted was it ratified India's membership from Commonwealth in May 1947. So India was no India was now not the member of Commonwealth. Okay, so what do you mean by Commonwealth nation? So those nations which were ruled by the British um, at that time were called as Commonwealth nations. For example, I have given example in the earlier chapters, still I'll give the example. For example, um, Mumbai or Bombay is British. Let us assume that Mumbai is British and now Mumbai is ruling over other countries, that is Pune, Hyderabad, Delhi. So these countries, Pune, Hyderabad, and Delhi, will be called as Commonwealth nation because it is ruled by a single common nation, which is Bombay. So India was ruled by British. So India was called as Commonwealth nation, and it ratified its membership in 1949. It adopted a national flag on July 20, 1947. Then it adopted a national anthem on January 24, 1950 and national song on January 24, 1950. So three things are happening on January 24, 1950. National anthem is adopted, national song is adopted, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was elected as the first president of India. Okay. In all, Constituent Assembly had 11 sessions over 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days. So, on January 24, 1950, Constituent Assembly held its final session. Okay. Now, moving on, just read about the major committees and minor committees. I have not made a short note over here because then it would only be the copying of original data. So you can refer that portion from the textbook and try to see the important names. Okay. Now drafting committee. Who was the chairman of drafting committee? Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar chaired the drafting committee, and drafting committee was made to prepare the draft of the constitution. Now the first draft was prepared on February 1948. It took less than 141 days to prepare the first draft. Okay, and who were the members of drafting committee? N Gopal Swami Iyengar, Aladi Krishna Swami Iyer, Dr. K.M. Munshi, Sayyid Muhammad Sadadullah, N Madhav Rao. He was replaced by B.L. Mittal, who resigned due to ill death, and T.T. Krishnamachari. He replaced D.P. Khaitan, who died in 1948. Okay, so this is only the information that we need to remember. Okay, we don't need to remember the dates about the first or second draft because that is not much relevant. Now, enactment of constitution. Okay, so in this also much information is given about first and second reading, but as if you study the previous year question, dates and specific of readings, the dates of readings and all is not paid much attention to, so we can skip, we can just see about the final draft. So final draft was introduced on November 4, 1948. Then after introducing the final draft, second reading happened. Later on the third reading happened, and the third reading of the draft started on November 14, 1949, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar moved moved a motion the constitution as settled by assembly be passed. After the third reading, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar is moving a motion that constitution as constitution as settled by the assembly. That means the constitution that is now settled by the assembly after three readings, now it should be passed and it would be declared as the final constitution. So that was done on November 26, 1949. On this day, out of 299, only 284 members were present who signed the constitution. Okay, so out of 299 members, only 284 members were present and they signed the constitution. Okay, this date is also mentioned in preamble because on this date constitution was declared settled and final. So this date is also mentioned in the preamble. Okay, as the date date is mentioned on the preamble as the date on which people of India in the Constituent Assembly adopted, enacted and gave themselves a constitution. Okay, so the constitution adopted on November 26, 1914 contained preamble, 395 article and 8 schedule. This was how the final composition of the constitution. It contained 395 article, preamble and 8 schedule. Okay, so Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was then law minister, piloted the draft constitution in the assembly. Okay, he took a very prominent part in the deliberation of the assembly. Okay, he was known for his logical, forceful and persuasive argument on the floor of the assembly. He is recognized as father of the constitution. This brilliant writer, constitutional expert, undisputed leader for the scheduled caste, and the chief architect of Constitution of India is also known as modern Manu. Okay, so excellent thing written about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So we have seen how after three reading the constitution was enacted. Now enforcement of the constitution. Okay, some provisions. So some provision of the constitution pertaining to citizenship, election, provisional parliament, temporary and transitional provision came into force, and short title contained articles, all those articles that are given in the textbook, you have to just try to identify them if it comes as a question. So all this article they came to force on November 26, 1949 itself. Okay, so they did not wait for the further corrections or whatever. These articles they came into force directly as soon as the constitution was accepted, and the remaining provision came to force on January 26, 1950. Okay, mostly about a year later. This day is conferred to the date of commencement of Constitution, and it is celebrated as Republic Day. But why did we choose January 26th as the date of commencement of Constitution? Because on this day in 1930, on January 26 in 1930, Purna Swaraj Day was celebrated. Okay, so Purna Swaraj means, Purna means total and Swaraj means self rule. So on this day, it was declared that we do not want a dominion status. We want full freedom from British. Okay, following the Lahore session of INC, that is Indian National Congress. So after the Lahore session, we declared that we want Purna Swaraj. That is why we selected this day uh, to commence our constitution. Okay. Now, on what happened now? With the commencement of Constitution, Indian Independence Act of 1947 and Government of India Act of 1935 were repealed. Okay, so obviously, when Constitution is coming into force, everything given to us by the British gets repealed. That means now these two acts were no more into force. The Abolition of Privy Council Jurisdiction Act 1949 continued. Okay, so here we are done with the enforcement of Constitution. Now criticism of the Constituent Assembly. Now how criticism took place on the Constituent Assembly? What were the criticism made by people? First criticism, it is not a representative body. Okay, people said that the Constituent Assembly were not directly elected by the people of India. That is why it is not the representative body. But we have seen already in our first slide or second slide. Uh, Wait, I'll show you. Hmm. So, so they have already said that although Constituent Assembly was not directly based on adult franchise, that is, it was not directly elected, but it had a representative from all sections of society. That is why this criticism that was not a representative body is cannot be totally true. Okay, second, not a sovereign body. Critics maintain that it was not a sovereign body as it was created by the proposal of British government. Further, they said assembly held its session with the permission of British government. So they also said that it is not a completely sovereign, that is completely independent body. Permission was taken from British government and there was some British interference. So they also claimed that it is not a sovereign body. Third point is time consuming. So the process of uh, making the constitution was time taking according to the people. So they also criticized it for unduly taking long time to make the constitution and compared it with different constitution, then dominated by congress. So the critics charged the constituent assembly was dominated by congress party. Granville Austin, a British constitutional expert, remarked the constitution assembly was one party body in an essentially one party country. Okay, so because of greater influence of Congress party, they also criticize that it is dominated by Congress. Similarly, lawyer politician dominant. It also said that the assembly was dominated by lawyers, and they pointed out that other section of society were not sufficiently represented. and this is the main reason because it was dominated by lawyer, and usually lawyer tend to have a legal language, so that is why our constitution is so bulky. This was also the blame made, and the last blame was it was dominated by Hindus. Okay, so according to some critics, it was dominated by Hindus. Lord Viscount Simon called it is a body of Hindus. Similarly, Winston Churchill commented the Constituent Assembly represented only one major community in India. So these were the major criticisms. Now important fact. Okay. So elephant was adopted as a seal of symbol of Constituent Assembly. Okay. So the seal, the elephant was adopted as a seal. Sir B.N. Rao was appointed as constitutional advisor or legal advisor of Constituent Assembly. Sir H.V.R. Iyengar was the secretary to the Constituent Assembly. Sir S.N. Mukherjee was the chief. These are all the facts. You just need to keep them in mind. There is no logic behind this, so no explanation. Just remember the points. S.N. Mukherjee was chief draftsman. Prem Bihari Narayan Raizada was a calligrapher of Indian Constitution. The The original version was beautified and decorated by artists from Shantiniketan, including Nandlal Bose and Bihor Ram Manohar Sinha. He also illuminated and beautified and ornamented the original preamble. The calligraphy of Hindi version was done by Vasant Krishna Vaidya and Nandalal Bose. So there are some tables given over here after the chapter. So you have to study them carefully. And when we are doing the revision lectures and whenever we will be solving the previous year question, I will explain you how these charts are relevant and how to study the charts. So I hope you liked the video and you understood everything and especially the short points. So please like, share, comment and subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next chapter. Bye bye. Thank you.